What is up, everybody? It's Old Man Winter 8, and yeah, this is me, I guess. So I am a snowboarder, a skateboarder, pretty much just about any board sport. I really like to do board sports. I used to wakeboard a lot, not as much anymore, but still have to get out in the water. Mainly do paddleboarding nowadays, but I've worked in the skate and snow industry, in the outdoor industry since 1995, and have pretty much been riding boards since the 80s, and I really do love it. And I actually love getting people into these sports too, just because I know I have so much fun doing it, and it makes me feel good to know that other people are going to be having as much fun as I've been having too. Old Man Winter 8. So that actually came from, it was an old screen name long time ago when I was getting signed up on the lines. And I thought Old Man Winter would be funny because out of my group of people that I snowboarded with, my friends, I was always the oldest one. At the time I was in my 20s, but I was the oldest one, so I thought Old Man Winter would be the funniest thing. And then Old Man Winter was taken, and Old Man Winter 1 was taken, and then I figured, hey, I was always number 8 when I grew up playing soccer. That was always kind of my number, so Old Man Winter 8. The most, snowboarding, 100%. I mean, obviously I love skateboarding. I love all the other board sports, but I really like snowboarding. I actually skateboarded before I did anything else, but I just like the feeling of snowboarding, and you know, how free it felt. There wasn't any pushing involved. It was a little bit more flowing. So I guess it's kind of like me living in the Midwest and not having surfing. It's probably the closest thing, but the wave is always there. You don't have to wait for it. When I am snowboarding, I really like riding kind of the park style of riding. I love hitting rails and jumps and things, but overall just riding the entire mountain kind of like it's a skate park, really. Finding all the little transitions here and there and little hips and things, and definitely gotten older, so hitting the big jumps really isn't much of a thing anymore, but really just kind of like that exploring and just trying to, you know, utilize every little thing you can on the mountain and kind of think of it as like a skate park almost. But obviously I love all kinds of snowboarding too. Obviously the carving aspect of it, a lot of thing that a lot of people don't realize that's very important is to be able to utilize your edges properly. You know, we'd always do that thing where you bomb as fast as you can to get down to the bottom of the hill and then try to carve a circle at the bottom of the hill. But obviously as you get older, you're not hitting the big jumps and things, and you do start to appreciate those other aspects of the riding. So really like kind of laying down some good carves, and you know, you get back on the lift and ride back up and kind of look and see if you can find your carves on the snow. I really like that aspect of it. I've actually been getting into some splitboarding lately too, just kind of a great way to get out and explore a little bit, but more get some exercise, help drop some of those pounds. And obviously I still love skateboarding. I'll take one day of snowboarding over 100 days of skateboarding, but I probably get to out and get to skate much more than I actually do snowboard. But it always brings me back to, there was an old Moro t-shirt, I think it was a Todd Richards shirt, that had the definition of snowboarding, and it said, just an excuse to suck at skateboarding. But I always thought that was funny. But I really like riding parks. I don't really go out street skating much anymore. Riding in the streets, I just, you know, don't have time to get kicked out of spots, and I just rather go and skate and have some fun. Mostly riding a lot of the street features at the skate park. You know, a little bit of transition here and there, but just kind of depends on the day in the park. Really like a good step up session though, especially at the old Portage skate park. We would ride that step up for a long time. And I did used to wakeboard a lot in the summer times. I worked at a store in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we sold wakeboards, and it was literally work until 6 and then head across the street or head down the street wherever the buddies that had boats, and we would go ride almost every single day. So definitely don't get to wakeboard as much as I used to, and kind of towards the end of when we were wakeboarding a lot, really got into wake skating and really enjoyed, you know, kind of that feeling of skateboarding, kind of learning some of those new tricks on the wake skates. And wake surfing is always fun. Never really got into it as much as I like the wakeboarding and wake skating aspect. But most of my days on the water now are definitely spent paddleboarding and just kind of going out on those adventures. You know, living in the Midwest, you don't get too much surf, so I haven't really gotten into the surfing aspect of it as much. Not that I'm opposed to it, but really do like just kind of going out and just going for a nice long paddle, get some good exercise, and kind of enjoying the sun and just waiting for the snow to fall. Biggest accomplishments? That's a good question. I mean, snowboarding is one of those things where obviously I've done it for a long time. I always had a blast doing it. I rode regionally for a few different companies. It was mainly riding for the reps. I rode for Moro, Triple X, Capita when it first started. And then kind of the whole Forum Genius Special Blend Foursquare kind of thing. I had a buddy that was the rep for them, so I rode for those companies regionally for a while. Yeah, that was always, you know, definitely kind of that confidence booster. Just obviously you go out, you ride, you have fun, but when somebody's willing to, you know, hook you up with stuff to, you know, really represent their brands, that's always a good confidence booster. So you know, that obviously all the riding that I've done in the past, whether it was, you know, on the rails or off the jumps or just riding in general and just kind of, you know, being that figurehead is always kind of a, you know, again, a nice little confidence booster. And I did actually ride regionally for Liquid Force. I rode for the rep too. So we definitely used to go out and ride a lot, you know, trying to progress. And I did actually compete in the big wakeboard tour they had every year. You could just kind of sign up and ride against the pros. And I actually did do that once, and I didn't come in last place. But the only reason I didn't come in last place, and because I beat one of the pros, I don't remember who it was, but I remember that I did place above one of the pros, and that was mainly because he fell on his second trick. So that was really the only reason. I remember I got my first pass, and then on the second pass, they gave the option to hit the ski jump, which was huge. And I was like, sure, I'm gonna try that, which was a big mistake because that was the first time I'd ever gone off of something. It's a hard feature. And I literally got on that thing and went right on my edge and slipped right off the end. But, you know, obviously some bragging rights there, but not really bragging rights. But it was a fun thing to do. And then skateboarding, not really a ton there. I did have my name on a board once, but again, it was a small local company from, you know, an old acquaintance from back in the day. So it definitely wasn't anything to write home about, but it was basically one step above taking your marker and writing it on the board, on a blank board yourself. That's a great question. A lot of people actually asked me that growing up, and especially when I was in Michigan, they were always like, why don't you move out west? I thought about it here and there, but I never thought about it seriously. When I was working in Michigan, I honestly had an awesome job. I loved what I was doing. I loved all my friends. I had a place to live that was part of my job, which was amazing. I had this brand new apartment. I lived above the shop. I had a mini ramp in the back. You know, at the time being young, it was kind of like, oh, I can't get any better than this. And it was kind of an uncomfortable thing. Like, do I really want to give this up to try to go move out west and be a snowboard bum and try to take that riding to that next level and push it professionally? So it was contemplated here and there, but I always, you know, I just always thought in my brain like, oh, this is what I like doing. It can't get any better than this, and I didn't want to risk it, which I'm honestly glad I did, because who knows what would have come from it. But I've got a beautiful wife, got a beautiful daughter, and if I wouldn't have made the choices I made back then, those two would not be in my life. And yeah, that's really my everything. So I really wouldn't have changed anything for the world. Yeah, working in the industry, I've worked in this industry since 1995. That's when I got my first job at The Edge in Portage, Michigan. Big shout out to Scott and Mike. Those guys kind of took me in. I kind of got into the whole industry. It was kind of crazy. I was doing some artwork and taking some photos of my snowboard and me riding. And I took some photos and I kind of did this like double exposure thing in my photography class in high school. And I made some artwork that I actually gave to the guys at the Edge. And then the Morrow rep, my now good friend Mick, actually saw it and he invited me out to his house to go wakeboarding, which I had never been wakeboarding before. So I pretty much learned to wakeboard that day. But afterwards, we went into his office and he kind of showed us all the new Morrow snowboards, and I just kind of absorbed everything. And I was kind of realized that, I really was fascinated with, all this stuff, and just the way he explained things really resonated, and it really stuck in my mind. And I was able to actually go to the Edge, and I was kind of that shop rat that was hanging out at the store. And I ended up kind of giving them a little bit of a clinic on the snowboard stuff, just because I was just spitting back what I learned from Mick. And those guys next year, they actually gave me a job, and I worked there for 12 years running the pro shop and doing the buying. And then from there moved to Chicago, and I've pretty much done just about every aspect there is when it comes to running the retail side of things, from buying, team managing, training. Pretty much done just about everything except for paying the bills when it comes to the retail aspect of things. And then worked as a sub rep. I actually helped Mick out a little bit. He needed to go to Vegas and he worked for multiple brands, so I actually helped him out while he was helping out with Morrow. I was in the Dakine booth or West Beach, or basically helping with all of his different endeavors and all the companies he worked for, just because he was one man and didn't have enough time and enough people. So I've done that, worked with him, worked with my buddy Mike doing some 32 stuff, but always kind of, helped out on the side in the kind of a sub rep kind of role. And then obviously recently working with the house, been doing content creation and, really trying to, get some education out there and really teach people about snowboarding and skateboarding and the gear, and really trying to explain so everybody can, have more information and make those educated, decisions when it comes to buying snowboard stuff. My philosophy, I guess you could kind of call it a philosophy. I mean, it really kind of goes back to everything that I learned from Mick in that first day learning about those Morrow snowboards. And he really explained everything in an easy way. Basically, a lot of common sense. And that's what I love about the snowboard industry, is a lot of this stuff is common sense. And it's not really common sense like you should know this, but it's common sense as in once it's explained to you, you're like, oh yeah, I get it. That makes sense. I know that's true. It's based off of, facts, and coming up with a way to make people, understand exactly how something works, and why it does what it does. And it basically helps them make a little bit more of an educated decision when it comes to gear and things. When it comes to like snowboards, it's like everybody's got good gear. You look out there and everybody's just like, oh, the snowboard is trash. And it's like, no, it's not. You just didn't like it. And, I've ridden lots and lots of boards. And once you understand that, hey, every company's got different ways of doing the same thing, but you might not like the bend of a board, or you might not like the side cut or the flex. And it doesn't mean that it's not good. It's just a matter of, does this board ride the way you like it to ride? Or even, are you riding it properly? Because different boards do ride a little different. If you ride a traditional cambered board versus a board that's rocker dominant, they are going to ride differently. And if you try to ride one like the other, they're not going to ride the same. You're not going to like it. There are some kooky things out there, and companies try this other stuff. But again, I just try to base everything off of like the facts and try to look at things from two different points of view. For instance, like when you see those helmets that have the goggles that click in, and it's like, okay, it's kind of a cool idea, but at the same time, and if the helmet doesn't fit properly, it doesn't work. And if your goggles don't fit your face properly, it doesn't work. And once those become one, they're not fitting exactly the way they should be. So I'm a firm believer that you should have your helmet and your goggles be two different things. So the goggles fit your face properly, so they're keeping you warm, you can get vision, and your helmet should fit properly, so it's going to sit on your head properly. It's not going to push your goggles down. Your goggles aren't going to push your helmet up. But again, just kind of looking at things a little differently, where it's like, okay, well, yeah, this seems cool, but it might not actually be the best fit for you. And if it does fit for you, great, go for it. But ultimately in the end, when we're trying to cut corners and trying to make things easier, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. It actually means that you're just trying to make it easier. And in the end of the day, if it takes you, 5 seconds longer to lace up your boots, if you're not getting a better fit, then there's no point in saving that extra 5 seconds, because at the end of the day, your feet aren't going to be comfortable. You want to base your decisions off of the facts, not off of opinions. And that's the way you're gonna be able to buy gear smarter, and you're actually gonna be able to spend more time doing what you love to do, and you're not worried about your feet hurting at the end of the day or your shoes blowing apart because you skate a certain way. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, my philosophy, if you wanna call it that, on, on gear. The future, whew. I don't know how much more future we have left here. Definitely, obviously getting older and, just trying to ride as much as possible. I just love learning all the new tech when it comes to all the new skate and snow and paddleboard gear. I love to learn about new stuff and, why things do certain things. And I'm always fascinated by, how things work. I do kind of understand, again, how things work and how they work on a basic level, and I love to, again, learn about that and give it back to people. Really just trying to keep people in the board sports, having fun. It's something I've been doing, for the majority of my life, and it is so much fun. It's something you can do by yourself. It's something you can do with friends. It's a community. It's a sport. It's an art. It's literally everything, no matter what kind of board sport you're doing. I just, again, love getting people into that stuff, and I want to make sure that the, obviously, older generations, but most importantly, those younger generations come up and, make sure they get the right gear so they can get out and, have a lot of fun and have as much fun as I did growing up.